This is a somewhat forbidding place. It is a vast and swampy wilderness, several 100,000 acres here. You don't let your guard down.
Somewhere here in 1860, the Clotilda came to shore, illegally delivering at least 110 enslaved Africans hidden in its cargo hold. Evidence of a crime, the vessel was burned, scuttled, and never intended to be found.
So I said, okay, nobody's ever looked by 12 Mile Island, and that's where the captain says he burned the thing. I'm going to look by 12 Mile Island. And that made all the difference.
159 years later, river guide and environmental journalist Ben Rains found the wreck.
So this is where Clotilda is sunk, this shoreline right here we're running along.
Today, he's taking Darren Patterson to the secret site for the first time. Darren's ancestors were captives on board. For him, this is difficult.
Man. It's hard to fathom, it's just hard to fathom what they had to go through to survive, to live, you know, to make it. I can't even imagine it. I would love to have put myself in that place though, just to feel what they felt. My son always said, oh, I wouldn't have stood for that, Pop. And I'm like, and what would you have done? What would you have done? Yeah, it's crazy.
It was descendants that motivated Ben's search. He and his team did a full survey of the shoreline and found 11 wrecks.
Got in the water, checked them out, and at the end of the day, there was only one left that could be Clotilda, and it appeared to be the right size. I had held up pieces of it to the light of day, which turns out to be the first time in 160 years Clotilda had seen the light of day. And so then all the experts came back. It took them 13 months, but last week they verified that we had found Clotilda.
A lot of people said it didn't even exist. We knew it existed.
There are a lot of African Americans who don't know the specifics of their heritage because of the nature of the slave trade. How important is it to you that you can pinpoint it, this exact situation?
It tells me who I am, tells me where I came from.
Last survivor of the slave ship Clotilda, burial landmark of Cudjoe Kazula Lewis, died 1935, Plateau, Alabama, Africatown, USA. Last survivor slave ship.
Historians believe Cudjoe Lewis and the other enslaved Africans trafficked across the Atlantic worked to buy land from their former owners to grow crops and feed their families once they were freed when the Confederacy was defeated. It's a source of great pride for Thelma Mabin Owens and Jocelyn Davis.
I am a direct descendant of Charlie Lewis. Charlie Lewis was one of the survivors of the Clotilda and one of the founders of Union Baptist Church.
With the church and a school, they settled and governed a tiny neighbourhood, a little piece of Africa. There was no way home, so they made a home here.
Do you think there was a real effort to kind of keep the community together and to settle a community here?
Yes, because they were all they had. So they had to stay close together.
A community of pride, a community of love, a community of helping one another.
And it still is?
It still is. At one time, there was over 12,000 people in this community. Now it's down to about 1,800. So we want the community to flourish and be vibrant again like it was once before.
Raising and restoring the remains of the Clotilda and displaying it for visitors may help ease the community's economic woes.
So whatever they can do with it, it will bring tourism to Africatown, and hopefully it can help bring some type of economic growth, and they can help revitalize the area.
How important is it to you that it stays here?
Oh, it's very important that it stays here because that's a part of me. That's a part of me. So I think it's very important that it stays.
The church house Jocelyn's ancestors founded is still the beating heart of Africatown. At its most jubilant during the midweek evening service, a celebration of revival, of youth and of the future.
They still want to talk about what you used to do and how you used to be or where you used to go. But I want to know, is there anybody that say, I'm not in my used to no more, but I'm forgetting those things which are behind me and I'm pressing towards what's in front of me.
The Clotilda may have finally been found. This community is praying the legacies of their ancestors of resilience and survival were never lost.
The story of the Clotilda, the beginning of it, has long been known, but it's what happens at the end of that story that is still unclear. What happens next? Now, there are many interested parties, federal, state groups and organisations, all thrashing out what is the best next move, and the descendants are meeting and they have a voice, obviously, in this process as well, the most important voice. Raising the Clotilda and restoring it, that would obviously require funding to do that. But all of the descendants, without exception, that we have spoken to in the past days in the Rainy Delta, have all told us the same thing, that they want it to stay here, it must stay here, that is non-negotiable. It cannot be taken and put in a museum somewhere else in the USA. To them, it is really important that the historical legacy is preserved, and that's what they really want to see happen here.